We begin here. After a bruising week in court, former President Jacob Zuma is expected to address his supporters later today, all while legal efforts to keep him out of jail play out. Newsroom Africa reporter Ziyanda Ngcobo is live for us in Nkandla. Ziyanda, give us an idea of what's going on this hour.
A very good afternoon to you, Thembekile. Well, I can tell you that there's movement outside the gates and the entrance of former President Jacob Zuma's home. We saw a small motorcade arriving a short while ago. We're expecting a much larger one, however, to come from eThekwini, Durban, led by Mfundisi Vusi Dube. He has been a strong supporter of former President Jacob Zuma. We also understand where our colleague Lindamnisi is stationed that there seems to be a roadblock set up by authorities to manage the numbers coming into the KwaNgqamalala area, which is where we are right now. But I tell you, there's a stop and start in terms of activities. Of course, Thembekile, there's more activity here today because today is D-Day. Today is the day that the 5 days for former President Jacob Zuma to hand himself over officially lapses. We know then that the Constitutional Court has agreed to hear his rescission application. That will be on the 12th of July, a day after lockdown level 4 regulations lapse. But with one thing that is unclear at this particular point in time, Thembekile, is whether or not the Pietermaritzburg High Court will grant him a stay for his arrest. They may decide that as a lower court they don't have jurisdiction to do so. So that will be a day before the 72 hours for Police Minister Begikele and National Commissioner Kehla Sithole to actually arrest the former president. So pending what may or may not happen in that Pietermaritzburg High Court, they've already said, the SAPS management has already said they are ready to execute whichever orders that are granted by the court. But Thembekile, for today, we are counting down the hours until former President Jacob Zuma addresses the nation at 6 o'clock tonight. What will he say, Thembekile? Will he, as some have said, be a responsible leader and actually denounce any threats of violence in his name, or will we see him actually come out even harder than he has before, given what he tweeted last night, basically saying that those who have wisdom don't show off about it, to loosely translate what he said in Zulu. But also there was a video circulating of the former president when he was addressing Amabuto inside his homestead, where basically he said he wouldn't voluntarily hand himself over, maintaining that his constitutional rights have been impugned by virtue of the fact that he's been sentenced to a jail term without having been trialed. And so we're waiting to hear what he's likely to say. But as it stands, the numbers outside the gates of his household are growing at an hourly rate.
And Ziyanda, among the people who've been to Nkandla in the last 24 hours were leaders from a delegation of the ANC in KZN. They, from what they told journalists at least, want very much a de-escalation of the situation. When do we expect the NEC members to be there?
Certainly, Thembekile, we saw the ANC KZN chairperson Sihle Zikalala, as well as Secretary Mdumiseni Ntuli, who were locked in a meeting with the former president for hours, discussing a possible way to manage then the divisions that this particular Constitutional Court ruling has sparked. And they are concerned about what's happening outside, but they wouldn't be drawn on what they believe the former president should tell his supporters. They're very concerned about the possible threats of violence. I mean, earlier on, about an hour or so ago, we heard gunshots ringing out here in the bush here in Nkandla, and even more concerning is the lack of police presence just right outside here. I mean, I'm just turning around because I've spotted only just 1 or 2 police officers. And so when it comes to the NEC members, my understanding was that they were waiting to see what would happen between the leadership in KwaZulu-Natal, who at the moment have been tasked with trying to speak to the former president. I don't think at this particular point in time there has been a need to escalate the conversations to some NEC members who are said to have been deployed to come to the province. We haven't seen any of them. I'm talking about Lindiwe Sisulu, Togo Didiza, the police minister himself, Bheki Cele, Thabang Makwetla, Nosiviwe Mapisa Nqakula, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. These are all senior leaders of the ANC who, many of them were either former or either allies of the former president or are close to him. And so this is also said to have been part of the discussions to say, but where are those coming from Cyril Ramaphosa's camp, so to speak, within his faction, to actually show them that there is some semblance of unity within the organization. So Thembekile, this Constitutional Court judgment, as you can see, the crowds here have gathered, evidently breaching those COVID-19 regulations, but also it has potential to really divide the ANC and weaken it at the polls if we do see those local government elections taking place. Because whilst they can have discussions with former President Jacob Zuma at a political level, there's absolutely nothing they can do to undo what is done in the judiciary and the Concourt judgment that has since been handed down. However, those from Zuma's camp are seeing the Concourt actually saying that it's willing to hear the rescission application as a victory. One, it's bought him an extra week, but they're seeing it as though the pressure and the optics of what's happening outside here are actually now pushing the judiciary to act in a, quote, responsible manner before issues escalate into a violent situation. So as it stands, we know that that's the sentiment within the Zuma camp right now.
And the Royal House in KwaZulu-Natal wanting very much to stay out of this drama that's playing out there, Ziyanda. Ziyanda, I'm not sure if you're able to hear me. The point I was making was about how the royal family in KZN does not want its name associated in any way, at least with the presence of Amabutho in Nkandla.
Well, Thembekile, I can tell you that late last night that AmaZulu Traditional Prime Minister Mangosuthu Buthelezi releasing a statement denouncing, a scathing statement, might I add, denouncing the actions of Amabutho led by Nkandla, who is the head of all regiments here in the province, saying that according to protocol, Nkandla has breached all protocol. He was not detached, or he was not deployed, rather, I should say, to come here in Nkandla. Remember, Thembekile, Amabutho are meant to be apolitical. Amabutho are the blanket of the AmaZulu nation, and it would have been the king who would have sent Amabutho here. And they're saying, well, Buthelezi is saying that actually that is not the case, and they're misrepresenting not only the royal household but the AmaZulu nation, because it's seemingly that now this is also becoming an ethnic issue with regards to former President Jacob Zuma. Protocol states, Thembekile, that if the Amabutho were to be sent here, it would have actually needed to have gone through the traditional prime minister, who, from the king, to go and communicate to Nkandla to say, go and round up all the regiments and then go to Nkandla, because what is happening here is, of course, a political event, and to have then Amabutho front and center, that also caused a bit of confusion, I must say. But we understand, according to that statement released by Buthelezi last night, that Nkandla is not recognizing King Misuzulu Zwelithini as a king. He's saying he hasn't officially been installed, and therefore he has a right then to be here. And so we know that Prince Buthelezi, in his capacity as the Prime Minister of the AmaZulu nation, will be having a briefing regarding this. But also, Thembekile, I'm told that Izinduna will be having a meeting to talk about the actions of Nkandla, and it seems as though there's also within that particular grouping, they're quite upset, rather, with the fact that they feel that they were misrepresented by them actually coming here. But another aspect we must also consider, Tembekile, is the relationship that former President Jacob Zuma and the late King Goodwill Zwelithini Kabhekuzulu enjoyed. In fact, on the 14th of February 2018, Tembekile, you'll remember that just before Zuma resigned, one of the people he saw in the lead up to his resignation were King Goodwill Zwelithini Kabhekuzulu. So there are many ways to look at this, Tembekile, and I tell you what, now we are seeing many strands to this particular demonstration, that the divisions within the AmaZulu royal household are also now playing themselves out within the political arena.
Ziyanda Ngcobo, senior politics reporter for Newsroom Africa Live for us in Nkandla. Ziyanda, for now, thank you. And as Ziyanda was just reflecting there on the AmaZulu royal house distancing itself from the actions of Amabutho who gathered in Nkandla this past weekend, making it clear in a statement, as Ziyanda was telling you, issued overnight, that that was not at the authorization of King Misuzulu Kabhekuzulu. We'll bring you more on that story as and when we see the various developments.